Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ehlan wa sahlan ya Otsi, ehlan wa sahlan ya Akhi. It's Practical Absolutes here. And the democratic, liberal, leftist agenda is the most destructive thing that have ever existed, especially nowadays. Now, when you think about it, to embrace liberalism means that you cannot have individuality. Now, this is what I mean by that. If you are a liberal and you say an opinion of yours that is in the least bit able to offend at least one person, you cannot be a liberal because you can effectively be canceled. You have to embrace an echo chamber type of mindset. You have to be a cog that effectively parrots the things that you hear everyone say. You can't have individuality. You have now ability to embrace actual logical thinking. You have to embrace doublethink. You have to be told of something that you cannot listen and think into critically to its logical end. You can't. But you have to fight for it adamantly and vehemently. How is that reconcilable? They'll tell you that third and fourth wave feminism pretty much is the idea that you're supposed to put the middle fingers up to the patriarchy. But at the same time, they demand that these women are coddled and treated differentially and preferentially by men. How is this both reconcilable? Right? They'll tell you that gender is not biological, but the idea to embrace sexual ideas that is same sex is a biological, that you're born that way, which you aren't, by the way. But how can these both be reconciled? They cannot be reconciled. This is what it is. They'll tell you about body positivity, right? They'll say that a woman who is very attractive conventionally, you'll say that you have no right to objectify her and call her desirable and consider her to be a desirable person sexually, right? You have no right to objectify her sexuality. But if you see an obese woman on a magazine, you have no right to not objectify her by her sexuality. You have no right to not desire her sexually. What? Can someone tell me? Like, how does this make sense? You'll literally say that marriage is obsolete. Throw it out the window. You don't need marriage. It's not important. But at the same time, you will say that same-sex marriage is powerful, tantalizing. It is not only that, it is progressive. It is leading towards the propagation of positive ideas in the world. How are these both reconcilable? How are the ideas of the same-sex marriage in the least bit not obsolete if marriage is obsolete? What? Someone tell me? Like, literally. When they tell you about gender roles, right? They'll say that gender roles don't exist. There are no gender roles. But unless you're switching the roles, of course. If you're a man wanting to embrace the idea of being a woman, the closer you replicate the traditional ideas of being a woman, the more respected you are. Vice versa, if you are a woman who wants to be identified as a man, the more masculine, the more, testosterone you take when you get mustache and stuff like that, the more of that you do, the more you're accepted. They'll tell you that a woman or a man has to pump themselves up with drugs and all type of additives, right? And subtractives for some individuals with their phalange, right? They'll do these things to embrace the traditional idea or try to approach the traditional idea of what a woman or a man is supposed to be, right? How are these things both reconcilable? They do not reconcile with each other at all. It doesn't take much thinking for you to realize that these things are not sustainable. These ideas are not sustainable. They're going to implode on itself, right? Literally, they're just not going to, they're not going to work. When you look at the idea of gender fluidity, right? And how an individual can simply say, oh, I am a woman or I am a man now. That's gender fluidity, right? But if a man who is conventionally, according to third and fourth wave feminism, a oppressor, if they identify as a woman, they are now the oppressed. What? So moreover, if a woman who is, say she's a third and fourth wave feminist, she says the next day, I am a man. If she does this, then does that make her an oppressor? And with the fluidity, do you get to just flip-flop between being oppressed and oppressor over and over and over? Right? Like, can someone tell me, can someone show me how in their God-given logical mind are they embracing such illogical, such irreconcilable, such sadistic tendencies. Right? And it's very, very sad to me because individuals are thinking that to fight against these things makes you a person who fears these things. No, especially if you're someone who embraces religion. They'll assume that you're someone who is now fearful of them or that you secretly want to join them. Astaghfirullah. This is destructive mindset that is going on. It is destructive and it's sick and it's sad. But nevertheless, time will show that the things that actually don't work will not work, right? It will show this. It will literally show this. And you'll see how generations that come up will start to realize that this kind of thinking is going to lead to the destruction of the world, effectively. And it is not going to be sustainable. Now, the individuals who are in the now, that are embracing these ideas, they'll eventually see the error of their ways. And I pray that they actually look at it holistically instead of espousing ideas that further push themselves down this destructive rabbit hole. Jazakallahu khyren. Ma salama.